how can you actually buy Bitcoin anonymously? Can you even buy it anonymously? What does that mean? Is there a company that does it? Most people would think about exchanges, I think, before anything else. And we have here today the CEO of Vexl, Lea, let's see if I pronounce your last name, Petrášová?
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Congrats.
I looked at it last week just to make sure I would remember. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's it. But it's hard to get those rolled R's right in the middle of the word. So we don't have that in English. But I practiced just for you.
You did a good job.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Leah's with our sister company, Vexl, one of three. So certainly closely related to Trezor, here in the same building with us. And it's a ton of fun. I think we met. First conversation I remember having with you was at BTC Prague last year. It was after when you did your speech on stage. That's when I came up and I was like, you did a good job with your speech. It was like really solid. And then you told me that a lot of it was just improvise. You were like, I'm
not exactly proud of it, but
well, it was impressive. Like that was the most. I was like, that's incredible if that was the case.
Thank you.
Because it had structure, but it's also your stage presence is awesome. So
thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I hope I won't disappoint you this year.
No, yeah, you set the standard. That's that's up there now. But tell us why. I guess we can start with why you would even need to purchase Bitcoin anonymously in the first place. And I know you've said before, you said in the past that maybe Vexl isn't necessarily what you would define as strictly anonymous. But let's start with the first one. Like, why would you need that for any reason whatsoever?
Yeah, I would basically tweak it a bit. The question, because while anonymity is an important feature of many systems out there, and as an important framework to be able to achieve, and it certainly has its place. I would argue it's not necessarily something that common user would be looking for. Anonymity brings certain sets of drawbacks into interaction, particularly when we are speaking about human interaction. I would rather say what you want to achieve is actually buying and selling Bitcoin privately. What that means? That means being able to selectively reveal yourself, and you are not searching for anonymity in the trade. You are actually searching for privacy, and you are searching for trust. That's what you want to establish. And this trust, from my perspective, should be established in between you and the counterparty and no other middleman. And that's exactly what we are trying to achieve with Vexl.
Yeah, I think the first time I heard that being like the goal is like no middleman, no other party, using like digital technology, using like a phone, using the internet. I was like, well, how is that even possible? Like I couldn't even like picture like how that would be pulled off. So I think it's clear that was my first question was a leading question. Like, what is Vexl? How does it work? How did it come to be? How is that relevant to this question of privacy? I guess that nuance, privacy in Bitcoin transactions.
Well, do you know Tinder?
I do know Tinder, yes.
I thought so.
Yeah.
You can imagine Vexl as a Tinder with privacy on steroids. That means they're basically a social network, and we don't sell you Bitcoin. We don't buy Bitcoin from you. What we do, we find you a counterparty for your trade, whatever that trade is. If it's buying a product, looking for a service, or actually selling Bitcoin or buying Bitcoin. And we will connect you with this counterparty, and we will do it in a way that is very safe and secure, and actually very user-friendly. So it's basically a marketplace where you can see offers in a mobile app. And over this offer that someone posted there, you can connect with the counterparty that always is going to be a trusted person, because we connect you only with the people that you know, or the people you know. And you can basically virtually never meet someone strange on a Vexl trade, and that's the most important feature we basically have in Vexl.
Right, and it's exclusively a mobile app, right? That's where you would get it, just like on your phone. Like a
Exactly.
smartphone, you can download it there and then use it
Exactly.
from
We
that
were trying to make Vexl as accessible to general public as possible.
phone.
That's why we went for strictly mobile only way of distribution.
Right. Yeah, I know that that was exactly one of the questions I had was like, well, what if it's just like random strangers that you're running into? And that was the first thing that happened. It was actually Grafton, so another guy from the Vexl. If anyone does know Vexl, they'll probably know Grafton, I think.
I hope.
Yeah, and he and I like became friends. I was like, how does this work? And it's like, well, it's direct contacts, and then it's friends of friends. So suddenly, everyone that he was connected with, I was also connected with. So we at least had one mutual like partner through that. And I won't get ahead of myself now. Well, we'll talk about use. I had my first Vexl experience last year, and it was awesome. But we'll come back around to that. But yeah, what does if you were to do a transaction? Let's say you can tell me if I'm explaining all this correctly. You connect with someone else. You see some sort of listing like, hey, I want to buy or sell Bitcoin, and then you're like, okay, I want to do this. Like, what happens from there? How do you actually connect with a person?
Yep. So after you're onboarded to our marketplace, you basically see the offers from the people you know or the people you know, and these people are anonymized. So, but only to a certain part. So you don't know who the person you're interacting with, or in person who posted the offer, who the person is, but you know how many common contacts you have with that person and who these people are, which is very important. If you really zoom out from this and if you really look at it, what we managed to do with Vexl is basically we brought the real world reputation into an app, because when you see a posting, when you see an offer, and you see the social bubble where you're kind of moving within, that allows you to basically assess the risk of the transaction, the kind of like social bubble you are moving within. You are assess the trustworthiness of the counterparty, and you don't necessarily need to immediately know the identity of that counterparty. So this is the first step. You would check how many common contacts you have with that person, and then if that seems suitable for your needs and for what you're trying to buy or sell, you would request this offer. The counterparty has to accept, and once you connect, we open an end-to-end encrypted chat for you. That means no one ever, except of two counterparties, can access that chat, and not even us as the service providers. That actually applies to anything, any kind of activity that is occurring on Vexl. We can never see what is really happening there. If someone joined, if someone posted an offer, if someone opened a chat, or actually had a trade. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So basically, we open the chat for you, and you are vibing with the counterparty. You exchanged some infos. Basically, you would agree upon details, what, where, how, whatever. Is it Bitcoin? Is it Lightning? Is it Bitcoin on chain? Is it Lightning? Whatever. And if necessary, what you can do is basically reveal the identity of the counterparty, and this is happening symmetrically at the same time. It doesn't have to. Of course, if you're buying Bitcoin for 20 euros, not necessary maybe for you to reveal the identity. Or if you have many common contacts, if you have 45 common contacts, you are basically sure you are going to meet someone you already know.
Yeah.
But you could reveal identity, and if you have any kind of doubts, you can go and basically ask the common contact for a reference. And this middle contact doesn't have to know that you are trading Bitcoin. You're just asking for the credibility of this person that claims to be your counterparty. And if everything goes well and you get the green light, well, you would basically just agree upon having a coffee somewhere or taking a walk in the park. Or if I get connected to you and you are sitting two desks away from me in the open space, I would just buy with the money and you will send me the Bitcoin. But that's important to say. We strongly discourage wire, like settling the payment in the form of wire transfer if it is not someone you really know and you really trust.
Yeah, that is interesting, because that's like pretty much exactly how it happened for me. Like my story was about a year ago. I'd learned about Vexl, and that's one of the things that I don't know if you've found an answer to this yet or not, but it can be difficult for someone to picture it until they actually do it. And using it and doing it is what instantly made me like a convert. Because like I understood the premise sort of like in my head. Like, yeah, I think someone did make the Tinder comparison. And I was like, okay, I get it. But like, how does this really work in practice? And it was BTC Prague last year, same place we had our first chat. And it was Grafton as well. He goes like, yeah, just here's like my contacts. And I found some guy, I was like, I just wanted to buy like a fairly small amount, like 1,000 crowns, which is like 40 USD for anyone who's not from the country. And it was like, here's this dude. He revealed his identity, and I was like, "Hey, Grafton, you know this guy?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that guy's cool." He's like a 19-year-old kid, and he's a really chill guy. I was like, "All right," and so I was like, "Let's meet in front of this spot." He walked up, and it really was that simple. I pulled the cash on my wallet. He goes, "Great." I take he said, I think it take like a 2% cut or something. Like I signed it himself. He's like, "Is that okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, cool." And that was it. I handed it to him. He scanned the QR code. It was done. Like that was the whole thing.
This is a very common experience. At first people cannot imagine like, okay, so what, like, but it doesn't make any sense. Why should I go anywhere? And it's like so uncomfortable. But actually, once you try it, you find out it's like actually really cool. And as you said, like they get converted in no time. Like, and these people then basically become the voice of Vexl.
Yeah. The ease of the transaction was just like, that's the thing you feel. Like whenever it happens, like I cannot believe how easy that was. I'm absolutely going to do it this way in the future because it's just like so much better. Like even with like we can get into like some of the advantages that Vexl offers over like current standards of like, like buying with an exchange or something like that. But purely just the speed and convenience of everything. Like it was so simple, it was so clean, it was so fast. And those are things that I've been running to like more and more barriers, it feels like year over year, trying to like purchase Bitcoin, purchase some sort of cryptocurrency. But that just felt like, and it's literally peer-to-peer. That's the phrase you hear in cryptocurrency all the time in the original intent of the money. Like it's getting into broader concepts, but it's like that was what Bitcoin was all about from the beginning, is being a peer-to-peer currency. So it's like, I feel like it strikes that exact purpose for the currency with being the company that it is.
This is exactly what we were trying to achieve. And funny that you mentioned convenience. This is exactly what I use as an example. I don't know how it happened that pulling out your electricity bills and blinking into a camera with a passport became convenient. I don't know when this happened convenient. How did we end up here? No matter how flawless you do it and how many buttons you color blue, it's still super inconvenient for me. And particularly if you are, for example, foreigner living abroad, buying over centralized exchange is not convenient at all. That's just the practical side of things from my perspective. The bigger problem, speaking of convenience, is the data that you are leaving behind when you're going for centralized exchanges, and users don't realize the problem they are basically creating for their future self. The question, from my perspective, the question is not if the data is going to be leaked or sold or marketed or whatever, but or targeted by hackers or any other fraudulent actors. But when is it going to happen? And look at just like 2 weeks ago, it happened to Coinbase, which is tragic. And these people don't realize, people who go for this kind of services, they don't realize that the solution to this situation, when this kind of leak happens, the only thing they can actually do about this is move. And that's
what was all the information that was leaked out of Coinbase?
It was for sure. It was first name and the surname and the address as well.
It was physical address,
yes,
like where people lived.
Yes.
Yeah, that is crazy. Like you get first, last.
How do you want to solve this? Like, yeah, I know. And particularly if even your transaction history gets leaked and you reveal that you bought Bitcoin for 20,000 USD in 2017. Like right now,
Yeah.
you just painted a huge target on your forehead, and I wouldn't have a decent sleep knowing that this kind of information got leaked. So, well, like this is not convenient. You can't convince me it's convenient in any world.
Yeah, it feels like something that I think everyone would like agree on. Like these are bad things, or maybe it's just the education, because it's like for most people, I think it's you just don't foresee that thing. If you've never thought about that before, you might think, okay, well, you know, this information's being held by this company, no big deal. Like they've got it taken care of. Well, obviously that's like not always the case. It's not always taken care of. It's not always safe. It's not always secure. We hear about hacks all the time, and these are real world implications and consequences that something like that can have. I don't think that's something people would disagree on. Like nobody wants that. There's not anyone who wants that.
I guess the problem is that people tend to measure risks by probability. And I would strongly disagree. I say with this kind of risks, you should not measure them by probability, but actually impact, how damaging they can become. And then when you really start thinking about it and realize like, okay, this is not fun at all. This can shift the perception a lot in typical users.
Yeah, it makes me think of like the arguments for or against privacy. Like Vexl has made me think about that more over the past like couple of years that I've been here. Is like I used to have the I have nothing to hide argument. So like why would I care? And then I remember like reading some on the internet, something that put it into perspective. It's like, would you leave like all the curtains in your window open to your home or something like that and just have everyone be able to like peer into your house at any moment in time? It's like, well, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't leave like the bathroom door open all the time. There's like very obvious examples of where you're not doing anything wrong, but where like privacy is important to you and it's something that you value. It kind of like illustrates why these things are important or how they could come into your life in one direction or another. And yeah, I've always felt like it's just like not being able to foresee things, because it reminds me of like cookies on websites. Like, hey, can we track you with these cookies? A lot of people just click accept and move on. And it's like that stuff can come back to bite you in ways that you just can't even like predict like into the future. And it's like there's some similarities here in the way that plays out with privacy and cryptocurrency.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole internet became something very different from what it was intended to be back then. And Vexl is one of the attempts how we are trying to kind of bring back the cypherpunk visions from the 70s and 80s, and our small part to fix this, at least from the perspective of money, aka Bitcoin.
It's crazy to think that it goes back that far too, because I didn't even realize the whole cypherpunk movement was that old. But that is like one of the ways you guys identify yourselves on like the website, isn't it? I feel like I saw that word somewhere.
Well, maybe on my T-shirt. It is the only T-shirt I know.
The identification with it. I just didn't realize it was like something that people, I mean, yeah, I guess from that perspective, people did foresee it. They saw like the implications of how these things could work if it was mishandled or misused. Because yeah, you're absolutely right. Like if you're born even like not even 90s, you could have been born in the 2000s and you've seen radical transformation in the way the internet behaves. Like there's so much more. It feels like things are so much more regulated, which you can debate over whether or not regulation is a good thing or a bad thing. But things are, I think where it is now is more towards bad thing than it is good thing. Like for sure, I don't think that's like a very hard thing to accept.
If you want to discuss regulation with me, it's going to be a very short discussion. From my perspective, there's not much to discuss. So.
Honestly, that's kind of like the calling card of Vexl. It's like, I mean, and like, is the company getting something out of it? I feel like one of the first questions people would ask, well, what is Vexl getting for this service? Because it's like, what's the trade-off? Is there like something I'm missing here, or like, what's the deal?
It's a good question. Thank you for that. We are free and open source project, and Vexl is a non-profit company. We are not planning any kind of monetization. And we launched it as a gift to community, and we really have this deep deep conviction that it should be maintained as a gift to community. We really saw this trend of, well, basically projects closing down or being hacked, or even the project that attempted to bring peer-to-peer Bitcoin to the general public being shut down or regulated or hacked, etc. And that was our motivation why we decided to basically take our part in the story, and but we never thought about monetizing it.
So not taking money, not taking data, and open source, meaning
Yes.
anyone can look at the code, see how it works.
Exactly.
Just like Trezor, like same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. I love that echo of like the sentiment and principle of everything, because it's just like, I feel like that is underappreciated too, or a lot. That's why I say it every time. Every time we say open source, I always go, meaning anyone can look at it. So I feel like people throw that word out there a lot, and like maybe everyone, it's not like a super common description, but that's why that specific phrasing is used, is because it's like you can go in and look at any piece of code. If you're not a programmer, like go find your buddy who is and have them take a look at things. It's like none of it is hidden
And
from
not
the public.
even not only that, but also if the projects are out there and well, the whole development is open, you don't have to be a programmer to come and propose a feature.
Yeah.
For example, the open source developers can be so close to their community, and just like I think it's an aspect of open source development that is not appreciated enough.
Mhm.
We ourselves have so many stories where we were able to actually get in touch and start building communities, particularly in African countries, just because there were these people that learned about us and came to us directly through GitHub, and just we started supporting them. If we had closed source and this super crazy huge structure of product development, we would not even find out that we have these people who are passionate about peer-to-peer Bitcoin or are in such a need of peer-to-peer Bitcoin. But given that how fast we can gather the feedback, how fast we can communicate with them, and how fast we can support them, for example, with features that they can directly propose to us in a very easy way. I think this is like hugely underappreciated part of open source development.
Yeah, it's because it's so closely tied with programming. Like if you've never done it yourself, like I'm by no means a programming expert, but like I did a boot camp right after I moved here. It's kind of was like my foot in the door to the industry, and I have friends who've done it as well. And with open source in particular, like you can see people contributing to things, and it's not like it's like merit based. Like if someone does something really well, the community can be like, that's awesome. Like let's add this to the project. And if you're just a user, like all you're doing is seeing updates, like you don't really know what's going on underneath the surface, but it allows for people to collaborate freely without, like if you had like a video game, for example, almost all video games are like closed source. You can't go in and see what's happening or modify anything or contribute anything. But with something like a software like Vexl or something like Trezor, it's like these things can be improved upon by anybody based on their quality and based on agreement from everyone.
It's also amazing to have basically it's a question of sustainability of a project as well, because if I go rogue and we turn crazy or we are forced to close or whatever, Vexl was invented. It cannot be uninvented, and anyone can come and take it over.
Like the code is there.
Yes, it's like
there.
just like, and or if there is someone who thinks that I'm not doing a good job, to just take it and do it better. And for me, it would be great. It would be great because basically, I would love to see more solutions for peer-to-peer Bitcoin without KYC out there.
Yeah.
And if someone came up with a better solution, like I would jump on it immediately. So I love how how open source encourages competition and encourages excellence.
One other question I had is like, who is Vexl best suited for? Like, who would you say is like the ideal user, or maybe who you're like trying to reach more than anybody else?
Interesting question. And of course,
Is there a specific type, or like, do you have a target demographic?
yeah,
or-
basically, yeah. Look, I'm a CEO, so
You've already thought of all these
so
things.
basically, no, I mean, like from my perspective, like someone asks me this question, I'm like, yeah, it's for everyone.
Right.
Maybe it's not for everyone. Let's keep it real.
Yeah.
Look, one thing I'm really, really proud of is the UX of Vexl. We really, when we started building it, I really spent so much time actually speaking to actual potential users.
The UX, you said?
UX, user
Okay.
experience. And I really spent so much time like researching this. And I had this simple KPI in my head, like would my aunt be able to use this without a guide? Because there are other solutions how to purchase or sell Bitcoin without KYC, but they are such a pain in the ass, like honestly. If you need a 2-hour long or 3-hour long tutorial for a service, it's not a good service. Sorry, it's not. So this the accessibility of the project for like absolute normies, rookies, was something that was really in my mind during the whole development since the first scratch, and that's why I really think, and I'm deeply convinced that it's really suited for general public. Another thing that we actually managed with Vexl was not only that we kept the UI of the app very intuitive, but it is also very private. We really like when you open Vexl, you see a beautiful UI and it feels cool and it looks nice, and you most of the time really know what you're doing. I hope, or that's the feedback I'm getting. But we really, really spend so much time researching about how to make it as private as possible. Not anonymous, but private for you and your counterparty. So from this perspective, well, it's really perfectly suited for everyone who doesn't have to be tech savvy, doesn't have to be computer scientist, and doesn't have to watch 3-hour long tutorials in order to be able to participate in this like parallel financial system. So that's one part, like general public really. Second main group would be people who value their privacy, like people who actually understand the risk associated with centralized exchanges or with wiring money, wiring fiat to a complete stranger on the opposite side of the world. So, and I'm glad to see that this group, is increasingly getting bigger, and we invest a lot in education about these topics about privacy, about security, and financial inclusion, and what does it mean if you are if you are, for example, flagged in the banking system because you connected with someone malicious from the other side of the world, etc. What kind of implications it can have on your life, and I'm excited to see that there are more and more people valuing the privacy and the security Vexl can bring and mitigate basically the drawbacks that other solutions have.
Yeah, I do. I feel like it's getting easier and easier to be able to access stuff like this. Like, to me, Vexl offers a route to which you can make those connections, because there's like I don't think I've ever admitted this on the podcast, but it was a while before I used Lightning. Before I used a Lightning network, because I was just used to like on-chain transactions. Like I came in right around, it was like after the 2017 bull run. So like Lightning wasn't out yet. And I just kept putting it off. Like, I'll do it eventually someday. It is incredibly easy to use it. And like, I even, maybe people who are deeper in the community don't like Wallet of Satoshi, for example. It's like the basic one that you can download, but it's like, it is non-KYC, isn't it? I don't think I used
Wallet of Satoshi.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I don't think you have to enter anything. You download the app.
You download. It's custodian though. They just launched non-custodial services as well. That's generally what the community is kind of against.
Yeah.
But that being said, like when it comes to Wallet of Satoshi, I use it myself, and I use it as a kind of disposable prepaid card.
Yes, so, that's exactly what I do.
I Vexl Bitcoin for $100, and I'm paying with that. And I would I keep there like 20,000 Czech
Yeah,
crowns.
yeah.
No, like 1,000 euros. No, I wouldn't have it there. It's not a cold storage. But well, for like it's incredibly easy to use it.
Yeah.
And when I actually need to pay, it's my first choice.
Yeah, I think the thing is that like yeah, like I don't use it for huge amounts either. It's just for like, oh, am I going somewhere? I'll like throw some money on there in case I want to like buy coffee or like get something else. Like especially again, I don't know why this keeps coming up at a BTC Prague. We're coming up on it. Probably by the time this episode's out, it'll be behind us, but it's ahead of us here in a few weeks. And there's like stands everywhere that will have like they accept Lightning, obviously, and it's just the accessibility of it and how easy it is. You can download that app and go. Basically, there's very little setup. You're just ready to run, and that wasn't a thing even like 8 years ago. Like fairly recently in history, you couldn't do that. And paired with Vexl, it's like a match made in heaven because that was precisely the thing. That's exactly the situation I was in. I said I want to buy a coffee. Grafton goes, hey, why don't you try Vexl? He talked about it for a while, and I just hadn't done it yet, laziness or whatever. And like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And it was like, met the guy, threw it on wallet of Satoshi, went and bought a coffee. It was like all within like 10 minutes. It was very easy.
But this is exactly what happens, and it's very common experience, what you just described. So people would be avoiding it, even though they kind of knew the
like, oh, it's something I should do. Like, you know it in your head. Yeah. It is exactly that kind of thing.
Yes. And then they go and they never look back.
Yeah.
So, and that's very, very common for us.
Well, it's just so like adoption friendly. Like it was harder to just period get into Bitcoin 10 years ago. It was not as accessible. You couldn't get into it like simply and easily. If someone said, well, how do I do it? I'd be like, well, you got to go like make an account here. You need to learn how everything works. Like with these two items, it's like you can just get going. I can tell like my grandma to download these two apps and be like, look, the money just goes here. As soon as you make a connection, that's it.
And it's actually super cool that we have many people on the marketplace that are actually offering this as a service. Like, oh, I will say, like they offer would look like something like. So yeah, I will sell you Bitcoin, and also I can help you and explain everything.
Yeah, I've seen that a few times.
Amazing.
That's not something you would like think about beforehand, but I have seen that. Like people like willing to like coach on the whole thing, which is it's crazy to think we're like in that era of something. Because like
people would be literally like, look, we have the same values. I want to help you with this if this is your first trade.
Yeah,
it's like, and that's amazing.
There's a lot of stuff. I think about this a lot because I'm gonna make I don't know how much of a reach this is as a reference. Have you seen the show The Office?
Yeah.
You've watched it? I don't know.
I'm not sure if I want to know where this is going.
No, this is a good thing. It's a sentimental moment towards the end because the show's like wrapping up, and I won't spoil anything, but it's like the show's kind of winding down, and one of the characters, he says this quote that I've always like remembered. He says like, I wish you knew that you were in the golden years, like before they were over. He says like while you were in them, he's like, I wish you were like aware of them. And I get that vibe with this technology. It feels like this time when this thing is being discovered and it's becoming more widespread. It's becoming adopted, and it's really cool. It's a era where people are helping each other out. You're seeing it spread and you're seeing it become a thing. Like that's how this time feels. So from your perspective, it can feel like, oh, maybe, I don't know if it's ever frustrating to be like, oh, like people, I wish more people knew about this, but it is a really cool time when these things are developing as well.
Like, honestly, I have to actively remind this to myself. Well, because, I have to understand that like from like most of my days, I'm just very deep down in like CEO stuff. And it's hard to zoom out and see the success. Vexl actually became. But honestly, we crossed 15,000 users last week.
I saw you guys talking about that, which is
and
awesome.
It's like that's tremendous success.
Yeah.
And I look at the marketplace, or I look at Twitter. Well, I look at X. And, sorry. I look at X, and I see people are buying pickled jalapenos for sats over Vexl in Botswana. And I'm like, okay,
that's awesome.
This thing is actually happening. Like
a real world example, having impact somewhere.
Yes, it's not a hallucination. It really is happening. It's real. It's here.
Yeah, that's I mean, and that's like, it's so easy to look backwards at something that has like been built over a long time and it feels like it happened quickly. But it's like, no, like revolutions usually happen in steps. They're not like giant leaps. They're not huge sweeping statements. It's usually these incremental movements. And I feel like I've seen that just even since I've started here. I haven't even been here a crazy amount of time at Trezor, but I feel like it's already in a different place than it was like a year ago when I came in. And so that's where you can see the difference is with more of those like larger, when you look back at everything. And yeah, I mean, it feels good. I'm happy for you guys. Like I love seeing like the development with everybody and the team getting stronger and doing more. So like, yeah, it's like super cool to see. Yeah. One other question that I had for you was, is there a particular story? Do you have like what's like the best Vexl story you've encountered so far? Is there any one that stands out?
The pickles
is pretty good.
I mean, but in Botswana for SATs,
Yeah.
like
I didn't realize it was that far reaching. Like
for me, it's still overwhelming when I realized that. And African communities are actually our fastest growing ones. So
I didn't know that. Is this at all tied to Peppa, who's doing like the Trezor Academy in Africa?
We have quite a close collaboration with Trezor Academy, but at the same time, we started like totally independently from Trezor Academy, and basically we would have people from African countries basically like reaching out to us, like.
You're getting like messages from people or something?
Yes, like literally, like reaching out to us, like, can you help me? Can you add my currency of my country because it was not there because I don't know where Namibia is. So like it wouldn't be my first currency to think about to add Namibian dollar.
Like people are making requests.
And then we are coming back to the open source development. So why we actually how we discovered there is this like tremendous need for Vexl in these communities. So we started supporting the translations, the currencies, etc. The meetups there on ground, and we have our group of several volunteers that are actually acting as the voice of Vexl, voice of peer-to-peer non-KYC Bitcoin on spot, and that will help us grow. So, but pickles in Botswana, that was a strong one for sure. To this day, I can't understand why someone was selling horses on Vexl. Yes,
that was the offer.
Yes, advertisement offer for horses with an actual like grade and race of that horse.
Like the details being listed as well.
Obviously, it was a real horse being sold.
It's too detailed to be anything else.
Yes, exactly. Then really quite funny for me was this. So I've seen an offer that someone was selling frozen octopi for SATs, right? Frozen octopi.
So like multiple.
Yes.
Multiple octopi.
I was looking at that offer, and I'm
surprised you knew the plural for octopus. So you did.
I learned the hard way. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So and I was looking at the offer, and I remember thinking to myself, like, this must be a code word for something. I don't know.
It can't be what it is.
I don't know for what, but this is a code word.
So you're like, no way, is that literally?
Imagine, like, in a week, I log into Twitter, and there is this guy posting how he is basically making a goulash soup over an open fire.
With octopus.
He bought over Vexl, and I was like, wow, this is wild.
Wait, it wasn't here, was it?
It was here in Czech Republic, but middle of nowhere. It was not even in Prague. It was like middle of nowhere somewhere.
Goulash, for anyone listening or watching, goulash is like a big meal here in the Czech Republic. It's like a popular one.
Yeah,
so this was octopus goulash.
Octopus goulash, yeah. Basically, like a guy bought octopus for
using Vexl.
Yeah,
I mean, I can't say I'm not curious. Like, I would want to know what is that like.
So
I've never seen that anywhere.
Yeah.
Can you just put anything in goulash? There's no rules.
I mean, there should be some boundaries. But
where does disrespect begin?
Yes, exactly. So that was definitely interesting. That was a great lesson for me. Then, last week, I've seen someone selling Porsche 911.
A full-on Porsche. So there really is just no. I haven't thought about some of this. Like, there's no limit to what you can. I was just thinking in terms of like money to money.
You wouldn't.
Like,
you
can just put something up and be like, "Give me Bitcoin."
We started it as a platform for just Bitcoin versus fiat. But what happened eventually? So, well, not everyone has money to be actually saving in sats, but people have skills or extra produce or they're creative, And now imagine this. So basically, people started spamming the marketplace with all these kind of offers. They would offer tutoring. They would offer the services for. I don't know why, but we had like so many offers for consultations for photovoltaics. Is that the correct English word?
What is it?
Like solar panels and how to install solar panels. We had so many of them from various people. Then they started selling apartments there. Someone would sell the produce. Like, okay, I basically I planted cabbage. Now I have too much of that. So if you want to buy some, just go for it.
I have so many
eggs,
questions.
Homemade eggs. Like I remember this. Usually it went like 1 egg 7,000 sats. Homemade eggs. Like
there are a lot of people that have like chickens and stuff.
Yes,
here that you can if you go like outside the
and
city.
basically if they had extra, they would offer it on Vexl.
That's so interesting.
Renting an apartment, another thing.
There's not like legal problems that people run into with like an apartment or something.
Like you are. How
does that work?
But you are finding a counterparty. You're finding a counterparty, and then you agree with a real person from your social network. So what kind of socials you're using Vexl for discovery.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you meet a friend and you give them the carrot that you basically grew, then what is illegal about it?
What are they gonna do?
I bought my Christmas cookies. I bought over Vexl for sats.
Yeah, like you mean like the how people make like the big variety of like Christmas cookies?
I bought mine over Vexl.
Yeah.
And as we were speaking about the Tinder, analogy.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen even the advertisements like, oh yeah, I'm a shy 22-year-old libertarian and I would like to find, and I was like, this is so cute. So, but
like,
yeah, like really, like just
case.
basically searching for a soulmate. I'm still waiting to be invited to that Vexl wedding. So, wink, wink.
We'll have to do an update if that ever happens.
So, yeah. You cannot imagine what kind of offers. Like the creativity of people.
That's the word, creativity. I was about to say it.
But I absolutely love it. It's like it's private commerce thriving.
Well, it's so cool to see that as a result of something you've directly contributed to.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
built over time. Like none of this would have happened if it didn't exist to happen on. Like that's the direct line of reasoning right there. You really delivered on that question. That was a lot of very interesting examples of, I guess, and I hadn't thought about the potential either. I didn't realize you could just do straight up objects. I could be like, hey, I have an old bike, or rollerblades or something.
Exactly.
Be like, hey, I'll take Bitcoin for it.
I went for a Vexl. I went for a Vexl to buy sats, and guy threw in a Levi's Levi's jacket. Yeah. So I was like, sure.
Just sweeten the deal. That's awesome. So, I don't want to ask too obvious of a question, but just to wrap us up here, it's like, what are your hopes for the future of Vexl? Where do you want to see things go? Is there any specific vision that you have, or is it just like, we want to be broadly successful? What's your idea?
Okay, so two points. So first, you know how we use HODL for saving in Bitcoin?
Yeah, HODL.
Yeah, so I really wish that Vexl would be used as a synonym for peer-to-peer trading. That would be really cool.
Like as a verb almost?
Yeah,
to Vexl something?
Like to Vexl
I'll just Vexl it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That's a great goal.
So that would be really cool. That's one of my KPIs. Second one is coming from, I travel a lot, and this is coming from my travels. So usually in countries when there is a huge hyperinflation or other economic problems, you would have set exchange rate for dollar. So something that government says that this is the exchange rate, but the people on the street they don't care. The real exchange rate is actually usually like way off, even double, triple, even more. So I wish the Vexl could be once so spread that the price on Vexl would be the real street price of Bitcoin.
That would be the actual representative.
That would be really
standard.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, those are great answers as well. Those are because like I love that because it's like it's almost like it's a conditional like goal, like hitting a
Yeah.
certain condition or standard for something, which is like a great bar of measurement. I think I love thinking of it that way. Well, thank you so much for coming on. That was a lot of. I've really wanted to have you on here just to get more of the word out for Vexl in general because I think it's such a cool technology. It needs to be discovered more. More people need to be using it because it's so useful and so beneficial to so many people.
I
And it's
agree.
like, yeah,
I agree, and thank you for this opportunity. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it,
We
and
are-
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to find the time. It's so hard with C-level people to find like a slot somewhere. Like you guys have just walls of meetings every single week. It's crazy.
It's not fun. It's not fun. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I don't think I would want that life. It's nuts. It's just a lot of energy.
At the same time, well, I'm very grateful for this opportunity and this opportunity that basically Vexl gave me to have this kind of life and being really working on something I truly deeply believe in.
Yeah.
But it can be very demanding
of course.
when it comes to time.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, I'm sure you're getting plenty out of it as well, but like, yeah, obviously it's a lot to ask of a person. So we always end every episode with the awkward handshake because it's kind of like just enough of a distance. You have to like reach
Like
around.
this?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good enough. Yeah. It's a tradition we've had since the first episode because it wasn't planned and I wanted to keep it. So that's where we are. You're like our, I don't know, 10th or 11th episode at this point. So we have a full-on podcast now. So thanks for coming on.
Seems like that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll see you around. Look, where can people find you or anything? Are you?
Twitter mostly.
Oh, that's the big one.
But I post only when I'm pissed or
So
or like it's like witty, mean tweets when someone says or does something stupid. So that's what I comment on usually. Or I brag about Vexl. So that's
you at your most volatile. On Twitter.
It's like I'm basically oscillating in between the really mean and really excited. So
one or the other. Yeah. One of these two spectrums.
And Goodreads.
Yep. Okay, great.
That's probably the only social network I really
So X or Goodreads, one of these two, if you want to reach Lea online. Yeah. Now our fans know, our followers know. All right. We'll see you guys in the next one.